talking about, sorry, I'm totally distracted now, of course. Talking about being OC. No, it wasn't the OCD part. You had gone into more detail. You were talking more about the intricate of how you were able to put it together with your team and how you actually function better. Because I said I was all over the place and can't delegate.
Yeah. Well, I started talking about the content audit.
Yes, that's
an example of.
Okay, will you do that again? I'm sorry.
Yeah. So as an example, right now I'm performing a content audit on Dustin.tv. And what that entails is I have accumulated over the years over 385 blog posts that I've published and over 50 pages within WordPress. So there's well over 400 pages that I need to go through and audit. And the process is very intricate. If you read any tutorials about how to perform a content audit and prune your content, you basically have to put every URL into a spreadsheet with all these data points, like meta tags, title length, backlinks, social shares, word count, and then I have a number of other things that I have, sort of like a checklist of making sure that the post is optimized, because a lot of these posts are years old when I first started blogging and are really low quality, and they're tanking my site's SEO.
Okay.
So what I have done for this project is I've decided to delegate it. And so what I'm doing now is I have this little awesome tool called, what is it called? Loom. Have you heard of Loom?
I haven't, no.
So getloom.com, I think.
Okay.
Hold on.
Yep, double check and look into that for sure.
Sure. Get Loom.
Yeah. And what does it do?
So Loom is a Chrome browser extension that allows you to quickly and super simply record your screen and your microphone and even from your camera if you want, and just record quick little videos. So what I'm doing is going through one by one of like each task and explaining the spreadsheet, explaining what steps need to happen, explaining where to get this information. It's going to take me about 5 quick videos to explain this giant project, and I finally decided to go through Upwork and find a VA and hire someone to help me do it. But so that's an example of how like I can articulate the things. It just takes me so long and it's so hard, and that's why I have such trouble delegating.
Well, that sounds like a project that would terrify me, because when it comes to anything with content, because that's the thing, like I feel like I'm a dinosaur at this point because I've been around for almost 7 years. There's 7 years worth of content. And some of it I look back and I'm like, oh, don't go look at that, please.
I started professionally or seriously blogging in 2011, so I'm coming up on 7 years.
Yes.
The website is useloom, useloom.com, by the way.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you. I will make sure to put that in the show notes too, that people can go and find that Chrome extension.
Great tool. I mean, for screen grab, I always had trouble finding a good screen capture software, and because they're all too complicated and or expensive.
Yes.
I didn't want to pay it, and this one's totally free for the moment, and it's so dead simple.
Okay, perfect. Yes, no, because I do find that especially once you start growing a team, you need that ability to be able to do a quick tutorial on how to do something. Absolutely. That is great. All right, so I promised that I was going to ask this question because for me, we originally met on Google+. I was there constantly. I think it was probably about 3 years ago now. So what are your thoughts on Google+? Where do you think it's going?
So many people, as you know, from the beginning counted Google Plus out. It was always sort of the red-headed stepchild or red-logoed stepchild of the social media world. And I don't know, I still to this day don't know exactly why. Maybe it's because journalists just don't want another social platform, or maybe it's because the culture of Google Plus was much higher in intelligence and required more investment that they didn't want to, so they decided to knock it instead. But here's the state of Google Plus as far as I know it. I'm still relatively active there. There's still a very relatively large audience there if you can find the niche. There's a very specific set of demographics there. But I'm not super on it like I used to be. However, I do work part-time. Half of my day is spent working for a marketing firm owned by a couple friends of mine, and they needed a director of marketing, so I decided to come on as their director of marketing part-time, as if I didn't have enough on my plate, right?
Of course.
But their agency, or our agency, Steady Demand, actually started as a Google Plus marketing agency.
Okay.
And so nobody else was doing that. And so the team has been able to refine their practices over the last, 5 years or so. We have well over 200 clients at this point who are having us manage their Google Plus pages. And the reason we continue to do it is because the secret sauce that we have has proven that Google Plus for local businesses especially is an SEO gold mine. Okay. And people have kind of speculated this, like Google Plus helps your SEO, but we have charts, we have reports, we have case study after case study that absolutely proves if you are a local business and you have a active Google Plus presence with high quality content coming out regularly, your SEO is greatly impacted in the positive for your business. And we have, I don't know if you've heard of MozCon.
Okay.
I'm sure you heard of Moz.
Yes.
Well, they hold a conference every year, and they just showcase one of our case studies. And the SEO industry is finally recognizing the power, the undeniable SEO power that Google Plus has. So while I'm not as active anymore, I still encourage a lot of local businesses. If you have a local business presence, absolutely, you need to be on Google Plus and spending some time daily creating high quality, keyword targeted content that will undoubtedly help you in the search engine results.
So do you think this would work for, I'm trying to think of my audience a little bit, like online bloggers that talk about local events and local things of that nature? Would their content
Absolutely.
be picked up for it? Okay. But not
Absolutely.
necessarily someone like myself who is not, I'm nationally at this point and it's all over the place as far as the content too, because it's a lifestyle site. So more brick and mortar local and also online business local. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the more information you feed Google about your business, it's always better. And you have something like Google Plus, which is not part of your entity, your website. Hopefully you have a website, but it's associated with it in a way that that page rank and that that SEO juice is transferred over. And of course, all those connections, the people who do engage, even if it's not as many as you get on Instagram, those people who are engaging are telling Google very specifically that they are connected to your entity, that they endorse your entity, and that can only be positive for you in the world of Google search.
Okay, that's interesting. And it's making me rethink some of the consulting and coaching side of things that I do now, because that also is somewhat localized. So it would make sense for that aspect of it. Okay, interesting. I like that. Because I often get asked that question about Google Plus, because my following over there is over 600,000 at this point, and I'm not as active as I used to be. I was on there constantly 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
All day long, it seemed like. And I loved it. But again, like you hear a lot of people say, well, go where your audience is as far as for social media. So for me, my audience for the lifestyle site is more on, Facebook or Pinterest or wherever they may be. But having that SEO juice for something that's local makes a lot of sense.
Totally.
So that's great. All right. So what is the thing that every single online business owner should have and why?
Oh man, that's a great question. So I think every online business owner should undoubtedly have, there's a few things in my head. What's the one thing? You know what? I've kind of been on this bent lately about having your own. There are two things: having your own website and having your own email list.
Yes.
So I'm sure your audience is savvy enough to know that you need your own web property. Who do you typically speak to? Is it mostly bloggers?
It's a lot of bloggers, a lot of influencers that may have a social media platform. Like, for example, they look to monetize it. So they may just have Instagram, so they haven't quite come over to the side of the website. So that's perfect for them getting that basis. Yes.
So I have a big heart for influencers in the space because, just like you, I kind of came up in the social media world. People started throwing the word influencer at me. I still don't believe it. But, I've lived through enough and I've profited so much from the value that I've dedicated myself to over social media. And I've seen so many great stories, great influencers, amazing people build up their social following, build up their presence on a platform, and all of a sudden, overnight, it's taken away. The analogy that is often given is it's almost like you're on rented land. So if your Facebook page is your primary web presence and you drive everybody there, Facebook, it takes them overnight, they can change their algorithm, and all of a sudden you can't reach any of your followers like you used to. And I have a blog post about this titled "The Biggest Social Media Mistake and How to Avoid It." And in it, I tell the story of Crystal Payne. Crystal Payne had a multiple six-figure business all through social Facebook. Actually, she had a Facebook page that was just going bonkers. She had some posts go viral. She was selling products and had, all these great things going on. She was making a great living off of it. And boom, one night Facebook changed an algorithm and she was reaching less than 1% of her six-figure or 100,000 member audience. Overnight, her business disappeared. I have another friend to protect the innocent. I'll call him Bob. Bob was an influencer over on Google Plus, had some great connections, and then this thing called Blab came out. And Blab was the brand new deal. It was the new Hangouts on air. It was live broadcast when live broadcast was actually becoming popular. And as you probably know, Blab decided to shut its doors, and he had invested so much into creating a regular Blab show and started to drive an audience. And all of a sudden, Blab says, "We're closing up shop. Thanks for hanging out." And Bob's business was gone overnight.
Right.
Vine. I know so many people who became Vine influencers. I know one guy who made $15,000 off of one Vine because Starbucks paid him to make it. Vine's now being shut down.
Right.
So you have all these amazing influencers doing amazing things with amazing content. And they're putting all of their trust, all of their eggs, and putting their future in the hands of somebody else's decision making.
Yes.
Their platform, their decisions. So my plea to these influencers is build yourself a website. Use your social platform, your influence on social, to drive people to your own property, where you can then add them to an email list. I mean, Jenny, you probably know this. It's so easy to get a website up and running today. It's not complicated. I can have one up and running in 5 minutes.
Right.
Just ready to go. And it looks beautiful. Buy a web hosting plan from Bluehost for $60 a year.
Right.
Get a WordPress install. It takes 2 minutes to do that. Install a free theme. And then add a free MailChimp form, sign up for MailChimp. It's free for up to 2,000 subscribers. There's really no excuse. Get yourself a website, drive people to it, build your email list, and then use that to connect with your most dedicated and biggest fans.
Yes.
Because you control that. Nobody can take that away from you, ever. And there are so many influencers out there. If they knew that one thing, if they spent the 20 minutes to sign up for a hosting plan, install WordPress, and sign up for MailChimp, that would have saved them tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in income.
Yes.
So don't make that mistake. Get a website and an email list.
I totally agree. And I think when we talk about getting a website and you talk about your own URL, like it should be a WordPress site or it should be something where you own the URL. Because I think for like when I started, Blogspot was huge. So, and it was free and it was easy to go on there. But then having to convert that over to WordPress was just such a nightmare and so confusing for someone that's not tech oriented, that starting right off the bat on WordPress would have been so much easier. And I think the learning curve would have been much less if I had done it that way.
Yeah.
So, now you talked a little bit, you mentioned a list. So I think that is definitely one of the largest mistakes that I made, was not building my list from the very get-go. I mean, we were talking about 7 years of blogging. I should have a ginormous list at this point. And I don't, because I didn't have different things in place that I should. So talk about a little bit more about a list, and like, what do you put in place in order to have it set up so that it can grow and add value to your tribe, more or less?
Yeah, so this is still along that same angle that I've been running on, and I just wrote a blog post about this as well. Like, I'm the same way. I've had a blog, like I said, since 2011. It's been 6 years now. Actually, yeah, it was 6 years in March. So in this blog post I wrote, I talked about how we sort of have to grow through this process of figuring out what to do with an email list. At the beginning, you're like, you start out with just a form. You're like, okay, I signed up for MailChimp or, some email platform. Yes. And I put the form there, get free updates. Like, right. Getting free updates from you is like this great deal, right? Like,
my mom was really excited about it, though. Come on.
Yeah, totally. But then what happens is nobody signs up, or like, 3 people, including your mother, sign up.
Exactly.
So, the next stage is then realizing, okay, we have to kind of offer them some incentive to sign up for that email list. And, there's these concepts out there called lead magnets. And a lead magnet is essentially giving something away in exchange for their email. For example, an ebook, a free ebook download, or a free downloadable icon set, or a free downloadable template, or whatever. Free downloadable thing in exchange for their email. And so that's a lead magnet. So we start to learn about lead magnets, 2-3 years down the road, after we've been giving free updates to people and nobody signing up.
Right.
And then start to get a little trickle of people. So that's what I think stage 1 is, or level 1 of growing your email list, and something I kind of put off for a while because it seemed like a difficult thing to do. Really, it was just like, I didn't know where to start. And, the mental juice that it would take for me to figure that out was just greater than I had the time for. But had I made that time to create my first lead magnet, who knows where my list would have been today.
That's exactly how I feel.
And, recently I kind of talked through some other stages. Lead magnets are sort of stage 1, and you'll get an increase in email list instantly by creating some sort of an offer. But more recently, I've discovered the unbelievable power of this concept of content upgrades. Have you heard content upgrade? Okay, so
yes.
You're familiar. The idea of a content upgrade, for those who don't know who are listening, it's a blog post specific giveaway. So let's say, for example, you're reading my blog post on 15 things you can do today to boost your social media. So you're reading through, and then in the middle of that post, I have a big box that says, by the way, download my free checklist of this post and take it with you to go. So it's like a PDF checklist. You're like, oh, well, I'm already reading this, and this is a bonus. Sure, I'll have this. So you get their email in exchange for a upgrade to what they're already reading. And let me tell you, Jenny, I've had several, maybe half a dozen evergreen blog posts that over the years have driven hundreds of thousands of visitors. Mm-hmm. And if I would have had a content upgrade on those blog posts, my email list would have easily been in the 6 figures at this point. So when I figured out the idea of a content upgrade, it was like my mind leveled up, So I started implementing this, and at this point now, I'm adding over 1,000 people a month to my email list, when previously, I was struggling to get a few hundred people a month just a little over a year ago.
Right.
And so for those stepping into the world of email marketing and growing your email list, which I think is the most valuable asset you can build as a business owner, as a blogger, as a social media influencer. Content upgrades are the way to go. Create blog posts, create social media posts that give a value, and then offer just a little bit more value in exchange for people's email address. And you'll have a great big old list that you don't know what to do with in no time.
Right. No, absolutely. And I think too, like we have a lot of food bloggers that are part of my audience, and they'll kind of look at me and go, but Dad, how do I tie that in? And my thing is always, you can use part of what your lead magnet is sometimes as a content upgrade within your content, especially if you're a food blogger, where if you're giving your opt-in and your lead magnet is going to be how to half a recipe because you're making it for 4, but you only want to make it for 2, that could be part of your content upgrade that's right within that content underneath your recipe is how to hack the recipe and sign up and you've got a new person on your list. Absolutely.
And, I'm actually taking a small group of bloggers through an intensive email marketing sort of one-on-one growth case study that I'm building.
Okay.
And one of the things I talk about is, this idea of when you create a lead magnet is supposed to be something you can use site-wide that's sort of, more generic than a content upgrade. However, if you create them right, according to like a category of blog posts, you can actually make these what I call contextual calls to action. And that's just a lead magnet that fits into specific categories, and you can use it over and over again in those specific categories. It works super well.
Now, one of the things that I use to kind of move them a little bit further down that funnel to kind of get people to really get to know me a little bit better is I use challenges. Have you ever used a challenge before? Like a 10-day or a 5-day?
I haven't, but I've been hearing about it more and more, and I've been investigating how some people do them. But I'd love to hear how you do.
Yes. Well, I have done, like, for the Jenny Melrose side of things, I've done like a 10-day pitch perfect challenge that kind of walks them through how to create an initial pitch to send out to a brand by the end of the 10 days. I also have the Melrose family because, of course, you can't just do one site. But over there, we do a meal planning challenge. And the big thing about the challenges is that you want it to be in line with what your possible product is going to be. Or if you have a product, it absolutely should be aligned to it. So that you're in the challenge, not only are they opening your email consecutively, they get used to opening emails from you and they get to know you better, but it also creates that sense of trust within you with that relationship, and then it shows them that the next step should be to purchase, because here's this challenge, we've started you too, well now you have an initial pitch, but what do you do after they reply back to you? Well, you need the Working with Brands e-course. That's what I do. Like, it shows them how it makes sense to go from being able to do the basics to then be able to go into greater depth and really making it a skill that they can be, that becomes theirs.
Absolutely. That's a brilliant idea.
Yes. So we actually, one of the things that some of my audience has gone through is I have a challenge that teaches them how to create a challenge for their own site and their own content, because it needs to be aligned so that it makes sense for your audience to be able to have that interaction and understand.
Totally. Yep.
No. So, where would you recommend to promote an opt-in outside of a content upgrade? Is there anywhere else, like on social media, that you feel like it works to be able to promote it to get new eyeballs on it and hopefully over it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a big fan of utilizing your social channels to grow your email list. Up until recently, I think Twitter is killing it soon, which makes me so sad. But Twitter used to have these things called lead cards. So it was this special thing. As long as you have an advertiser account, you can do this. You could actually create a one-click opt-in on Twitter to your list. And it was so brilliant. The first time I saw it was a couple years ago. Gary Vaynerchuk did it. Okay. So basically, it's just like a Twitter card, a rich snippet card. You got an image, title, brief description, and an action button. And just the tweet, you write whatever you want, like opt into my list and get a free downloadable thing.
Okay, and then it went right to the form, or did it go over to the website?
No, that was the brilliant thing. You just click the button as a Twitter user, and you're in. That's it.
You didn't have to put in your email. Oh my goodness.
No, so Twitter sends your info from your Twitter account totally behind the scenes to the email list that's hooked up already to that card. So it was this brilliant one-click opt-in on Twitter, and they're killing it, which is totally ruining my life at this.
Oh no! And now I'm really upset that you're telling me about this now. I'm
know,
wishing we'd done this
just
interview a year ago.
They're getting rid of it,
goodness.
but I trust that there will be enough backlash, or I know Twitter's not dumb, even though they do dumb things sometimes. But the other networks are picking up on this. Facebook is working on something similar. I forget what they call them. They call them something, but they're working on them. Okay. This ability to sort of opt in on Facebook without leaving Facebook. And then Pinterest, they don't have it yet, but they are moving in the direction of that sort of opt-in, buy. They have buyable pins that they're beta testing right now.
Yes.
So absolutely, I mean, these tools will help. But in the meantime, if you don't have those, or you're not in the beta program, or you don't have that skill set yet to dive into that, just simply using a social post to give a link. I mean, you give links to content all the time, right? So right. I would say 100% use the social platform to offer whatever value you would offer in the form of a lead magnet or content upgrade right there on social media. And the one tip I would have, though, is understand your audience on that platform. The biggest mistake I think people made, or the reason they were unsuccessful on Google Plus, is they tried to treat Google Plus like Facebook or Twitter, right, when it's a completely different audience. Most social media influencers know this. They know how to speak to their audience, but it's worth stating that if you're on Instagram, create a attractive opt-in offer or email marketing offer that speaks in their language,
right?
That gives them some sort of a value where they're at. Don't make it sound like an ad. Put their interests first, and I think you can have a lot of success with that as long as you're doing it in a way that's not betraying your audience's trust. That's truly putting their value for them first, rather than just saying, sign up for my email list because I want email subscribers.
Right. You got to provide them with that value in the words that you're using for the promotion. Absolutely. Now, kind of going a little bit sideways here, what email service provider did you use? You mentioned MailChimp because that was your free option when you're first starting out.
Right.
What do you use now?
Currently, just last month, I finally made the switch to Convertkit. I've been so excited to make that move, because I've been on MailChimp for 5 years, and that's where I started. It was free, but I only recommend two at this point. It's either MailChimp or Convertkit, and I wish I had started Convertkit earlier because there's no free, and I would have been forced to kind of make something out of it rather than just let it sit there.
Right.
But I put a goal for myself. I have to hit 10,000 subscribers before I migrate over to Convertkit, because they have a concierge migration service at 10,000 subscribers. So right. I did that, and gosh, Jenny, Convertkit is like seeing the light.
It's crazy all that there's a podcast episode on here with Cynthia Rosenkovich where we talked about actually organizing it, because I think that was because before you didn't really, at least I didn't, segment or tag or any of that kind of stuff. Like, they were all bundled together. I couldn't speak to what they were coming to me for, especially over at the Melrose family, where it's like parenting, food, essential oils. You had no idea who was coming for what. So that, for us, when we actually converted over, we started to give opt-ins to try to figure out where to tag them so that it was a little bit more organized. But it's crazy all that it can do. I love Convertkit. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, it's the best. It makes it so easy. And I was segmenting a little bit over on MailChimp, but they make it so difficult. It's so challenging, and creating sequences that are specific to that segment it's just a nightmare on MailChimp. I love those little chimps. Don't get me wrong. I love those guys.
Yes.
But for somebody who's a little bit more advanced in what they want to do with an email list, Convertkit is so much better.
Yes, because it just gives you the ability to be able to see your sales funnel right there based upon your tags. Based upon the actions that they've taken, you can literally see, okay, where are they in the sales funnel? Where do we need to get them to? Yes.
Right.
It does make a huge difference. Now, with that being said, if you are just starting off, like you said, MailChimp is a great option. And if your business doesn't have a ton of products or it's very niche specific, then you'd be good with something like that. But it is, once you start getting into multiple products and services, you need something, and Convertkit definitely fills that. Now,
Absolutely.
do you use LeadPages at all?
I do not. I'm actually pretty opposed to
interesting.
tools like LeadPages.
Okay.
And truth be told, I'm one of the businesses I'm starting. I said at the beginning is not necessarily a LeadPage competitor, but it's meant to stop people from having to use LeadPages or tools like it. See, I don't like this idea. Again, going back to putting something on someone else's property. Even though technically you can put your own URL onto a LeadPages page, you're still sending someone off-site, and they're still hosting your content. And so you're not getting the SEO value. You're not getting the traffic value. You're not getting the control of that entity. So if LeadPages goes belly up tomorrow, you never know. This happens in the tech world.
Right.
You're then forced to find a way to export all that over to your site, or that massive headache of how do I save my content?
Right.
So I'm creating a product that is twofold. It's meant to make content upgrades and lead magnets super easy to create, like stupid easy to create, but also be able to host those landing pages on your own WordPress install. So LeadPages is great. You can create pretty pages, but like something about that betrays my need to have control over everything.
Right. No, that makes total sense.
I think with the state of page builders in WordPress, I just don't see a need for LeadPages anymore. I mean, it's super easy. And as a designer, again, I understand the need to have things look good, but I've sold thousands of dollars worth of courses and products on a plain blank WordPress page with just a few images. So
right.
That's kind of where I'm at on that. I know people have different opinions, but I like simplicity.
Right. Now, can you tell us what your product is? I'm very curious, of course.
I can. So it's called Content Magnets.
Okay.
And you can go to contentmagnets.com. We are currently accepting beta testers, or at least building our list of beta testers, those who are interested in creating lead magnets and opt-ins or content upgrades from within WordPress. So we have that list being built right now. The product is still in development. We're looking at maybe 60 to 90 days of actually getting a workable product. And we actually have something very special planned with, I don't know if you've heard of Brian Harris of Video Fruit.
Yes.
So him and I are doing a webinar together, and that will be one of the first official launches of Content Magnets to the general public. So I'm very excited about that. That's in June.
Very good. That's awesome. Well, that should be great. Very good. All right. So tell me projections for 2017. Where do you see things going? Social media, list-wise, where do you see it all going to?
So I see in 2017, I mean, video has always been huge. And over the last year, it's gotten even more huger. But, I really see video as being a huge forefront in the social media trends. It's so much easier now to just create an on-the-fly video. I mean, every platform is doing live video at this point. And me personally, I'm going to be putting a heavy emphasis into YouTube, because despite, all these other networks popping up, Facebook doing video, Twitter, Instagram, I still know for sure that YouTube is the video titan. And so I'm going to be putting heavy emphasis on creating YouTube video content. And I've encouraged a lot of other bloggers to do the same. But yeah, I mean, video. Pull up your phone, snap a video. Instead of typing it out, just say it on video. I think that's a huge trend. And as far as building your email list, I mean, again, like, there aren't going to be as many people talking about it because it's sort of the next step up in the the influencer strategy, if you will. one of my life philosophies, I guess you can say, is you don't have to be 100 times better than the next guy or the next girl. You just have to go 3 steps further, 2 steps further, 1 step further. When you hit the finish line, it only takes leaning in a little bit,
right,
to win the race. And so for me, that's what an email list is. It's just taking that one extra step to build that audience, to own that audience, and to cultivate the the relationships and the fandom and the power of that list. So I think video is the biggest trend, but the only way you're going to get ahead of everyone else is by growing that email list, so that every time you have a new video, every time you have a new social media post, every time you have a new blog post, you send an email out to those people who have said, I want to hear about everything you do.
Right.
And that's where you'll find the most success.
I love that. That is great. Dustin, this has been great. It's been so good to catch up with you. I feel like we hadn't talked in so long, and this is just fabulous. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me and speak to my audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.